Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin tonight's chilling story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new horror tale. And I have a question for you. What city are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read your comments with great excitement, and I love seeing where everyone is watching from around the world. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin tonight's terrifying story. I knew something was wrong when I found a Walmart receipt in my vest pocket with tomorrow's date on it. Not when my scanner froze at 3 a.m. Not when the cereal aisle went quiet enough that I could hear the freezers humming from the other side of the store. It was when I saw the last item printed on that receipt, one childhood memory returned, that I realized somebody had already rung me up before I ever walked in. My name is Daniel Crow. I'm 31 years old, and this happened at the Walmart Supercenter off Route 9 in Mill Creek, Ohio, the kind of place with cracked parking lot lights, wet carts pushed up against the curb, and a McDonald's inside that always smelled faintly like old fryer oil even after closing. I took the overnight stocking job because I needed money fast. My mother's medication wasn't cheap, and after my divorce, I was sleeping in the spare room of her trailer and pretending it was temporary. Overnight work sounded perfect. Fewer customers, more hours. No one asking why a grown man had moved back home. The assistant manager who hired me was named Marlene. She wore purple reading glasses on a chain and had the calm, disappointed voice of a school nurse. On my first night, she handed me a blue vest, a box cutter, and a handheld scanner with a cracked screen. "Dairy starts at 11, she said. "Grocery after lunch break. Don't block the fire exits. Don't ride the pallet jack. And if anybody tells you about aisle 17, listen." I thought she was joking. The store had 16 aisles in grocery. I had counted them during orientation because I was nervous and needed something to do with my eyes. Aisle 1 was snacks. Aisle 16 was cereal and breakfast bars. Beyond that was a blank stretch of polished floor leading to the seasonal section. "There is no aisle 17, I said. Marlene looked at me over her glasses. "After 3, there shouldn't be." That was all she said. By my third shift, I had decided overnight people were just strange. There was Victor in Frozen, who kept a rosary wrapped around his scanner. There was Shelby from Apparel, who talked to mannequins like they were elderly relatives. And there was an older stalker named Ray, who had a permanent limp and smelled like peppermint gum. Ray trained me in grocery. He showed me how to face shelves, rotate dates, crush cardboard, and ignore the noises the building made after midnight. "Stores settle," he told me, slicing open a case of canned peaches. "Concrete pops. Pipes knock. Speakers click. Don't make stories out of plumbing." Then he lowered his voice. "But if you see an aisle sign past 16, you turn around." I smiled because I thought that was what he expected. Ray didn't smile back. "I mean it. Don't look down it. Don't call anyone over. Don't take anything from the shelf. Don't scan anything. And for God's sake, don't follow the music." "What music?" He went still for half a second. Then he shoved the peaches onto the shelf. "You'll know." The first weird thing happened that same night at 2:48. I was stocking cereal in aisle 16, kneeling beside a pallet loaded with family-sized boxes of corn flakes and marshmallow cereal. The store was closed except for employees, and the overhead lights gave everything that flat, dead color you only see in supermarkets at night. My scanner beeped once. No item on the shelf. No barcode under the light. Just a single beep. I looked at the screen. Item located. Aisle 17, Bay 3. I stared at it, then smacked the side of the scanner like it was an old TV. The message vanished. I told myself the device was glitching. Half the equipment in that store looked like it had survived a basement flood. I went back to work. At 2:59, the store intercom clicked on. Normally it played soft corporate music after closing, barely audible under the ceiling vents. But this time, I heard a song I hadn't heard since I was 10 years old. A cheap little jingle from a cartoon cereal commercial. The one my younger brother Evan used to sing every morning before school. He sang it wrong every time, replacing the words with nonsense until my mom would throw a dish towel at him. Evan had been dead for 20 years. I stood there holding a box of Raisin Bran with both hands. The song played for maybe 8 seconds. Then the speakers clicked, and the normal music came back. From the far end of the aisle, Ray appeared with a case of pancake syrup under one arm. "You heard it," he said. I lied. "Heard what?" Ray looked toward the end of the grocery section. The store lights flickered once. "Breaks in 10, he said. "Take it early." I should have listened. But grief is a stupid thing. It can sleep for years, then wake up because of a song in a Walmart ceiling. Evan had been 6 when he drowned in a drainage creek behind our old apartment complex. I was supposed to be watching him. I had gone inside for 5 minutes because I wanted to beat a level on my Game Boy without him bothering me. 5 minutes was all it took. My mother never blamed me out loud. That was worse. At 3:03, I saw the aisle sign. It hung at the end of the grocery section, where there had only been blank tile and seasonal shelves before. White plastic, blue numbers, glowing faintly like the inside had its own light. 17. Under it, an aisle stretched back farther than the store should have allowed. At first, I thought someone had rolled a display into the wrong place. Then I saw shelves on both sides. Real shelves. Stocked shelves. The floor changed too. The clean gray tile became older, yellowed linoleum with black scuff marks. The air coming out of that aisle smelled like cardboard, dust, and something sweet I recognized but couldn't name. I took one step closer. My scanner beeped again. Item located, Daniel Crow, Bay 1. I dropped it. The battery cover popped off and skidded under the cereal pallet. I should have turned around. I know that. Every person hearing this would turn around in their own version of the story. But standing there, looking into that impossible aisle, I saw something on the nearest shelf that made my knees feel loose. A red plastic lunchbox with a faded astronaut sticker on the side. Mine. Not one like it. Mine. There was a melted mark on the handle from when I left it too close to the stove in 2nd grade. My name was written underneath in my mother's handwriting, black marker bleeding into the plastic. Danny C. I hadn't seen that lunchbox since we moved out of Mill Creek Apartments after Evan died. I walked into aisle 17. The light changed as soon as I crossed under the sign. The Walmart behind me sounded far away, like someone had shut a glass door between me and the rest of the building. The freezers, the vents, the radio, even my own shoes on the floor became muted. The shelves were packed with things that should not have existed anymore. Shark Bites fruit snacks in the old box. A stack of Blockbuster membership cards. Orange VHS tapes from the public library. Toy cars with chipped paint. A bottle of shampoo my father used before he left. The green kind that smelled like pine and cigarette smoke. Each product had a small white price tag. Not dollars. Dates. The lunchbox tag said, August 23rd, 2002. That was my first day of 3rd grade. A little farther down, I found a bag of discontinued cheese crackers Evan used to love. The tag said, May 14th, 2004. The day he died. I backed away and bumped into the opposite shelf. A VHS tape fell at my feet. It was black with a white label on the spine. Daniel does not go outside. My hands shook when I picked it up. A television sat on the lower shelf ahead of me. One of those old boxy ones with a built-in VCR. The screen was gray and buzzing. No cord. No outlet. Still on. I don't know why I pushed the tape in. Maybe I thought it would prove it was fake. Maybe I thought if I saw some random home video, I could laugh and run back to Ray and never mention it again. The screen flickered. I saw our old apartment living room. The brown couch. The crooked blinds. The laundry basket my mom used to keep by the hallway. I saw 10-year-old me sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding a Game Boy close to my face. From off-screen, Evan said, Danny, come outside. My younger self didn't look up. In a minute. You always say that. The camera angle turned toward the window. Outside, beyond the glass, Evan stood in the courtyard wearing his red rain boots, even though it wasn't raining. Then the video skipped. Now the living room was empty. The Game Boy lay on the carpet. A woman screamed outside. I ripped the tape out so hard the plastic cracked. Behind me, someone whispered, "Refunds are at the front." I turned. Halfway down the aisle stood a Walmart employee in a blue vest. Too far away to see clearly. Too still to be a person. Their head was tilted slightly, like they were trying to read my name tag from a distance. "Ray!" I called. The employee raised one hand and pointed deeper into the aisle. The shelves behind them had changed. They weren't products anymore. They were pieces of rooms. A strip of our old hallway. A corner of my mother's kitchen. The beige door of apartment 2C with 3 scratches near the lock. A church pew from Evan's funeral, folded neatly onto the shelf like furniture in a warehouse. I turned to leave. The entrance was gone. Where I had come in, the aisle stretched on behind me longer than before. The glowing 17 sign was nowhere in sight. At the far end, something scanned with a soft electronic beep. Then another. Beep, beep, beep. I started walking fast, keeping one hand on the shelves to steady myself. The products watched me in their own way. Every label was a place I had tried to bury. A hospital bracelet from my mother's first overdose scare. A motel key card from the night my wife told me she couldn't live with a ghost. A cracked phone screen showing a voicemail from my mother, time-stamped 1:12 a.m., the night before I took the Walmart job. "Danny, I know you blame yourself, but I should have been watching both of you." I had deleted that voicemail without listening to the end. Now it played softly from the shelf. The aisle narrowed. At 3:17, according to my watch, I reached a clearance bin filled with receipts. Thousands of them. They fluttered without wind, thin white paper covered in printed lines. I picked one up. Walmart number 1846. Register 17. Cashier, Evan. Item, red rain boots. Total, paid. My mouth went dry. Another receipt slid out from under the pile and landed against my shoe. Register 17. Cashier, unknown. Item, Daniel Crow. Status, pending. I heard wheels squeaking behind me. A shopping cart rolled into view by itself. Inside it were the things I had passed. The lunchbox, the VHS tape, the cheese crackers, my mother's voicemail phone, Evan's red rain boots. The cart stopped beside me like it was waiting to be pushed. Then I heard my brother's voice. Not from a speaker. Not from a tape. From the end of the aisle. "Danny, come outside." For a second, I was 10 years old again. I saw the doorway. The sunlight. The Game Boy screen blinking in my hands. I felt the old irritation, the childish heat of being interrupted. I heard myself say, "In a minute." The shelves peeled away. I was standing in the courtyard of Mill Creek Apartments. Not a memory. Not exactly. The air was wet and warm. The grass was overgrown. The drainage creek whispered beyond the chain-link fence. Evan stood near the fence in his red boots. He looked 6. Blonde hair stuck to his forehead. Mud on one knee. He smiled like no time had passed. "You came back early," he said. I couldn't move. "Evan." His smile twitched. "You're not supposed to be here until later." "What is this?" He looked past me. I followed his gaze. At the edge of the courtyard, where the apartment office should have been, there was a checkout lane. A black conveyor belt. A register glowing green. Plastic bags hanging from a carousel. Behind it stood the cashier. It wore a Walmart vest and a yellow name badge with no name on it. Its face was smooth skin from hairline to chin. No eyes. No mouth. No nose. Just a blank oval turned in my direction. One by one, it scanned items on the belt. The red boots. Beep. The lunchbox. Beep. The VHS tape. Beep. A wedding ring I had thrown into the Little Miami River after my divorce. Beep. A prescription bottle with my mother's name on it. Beep. Then it lifted something I had never seen before. A small white envelope. My name was printed on the front. The cashier scanned it. The register display changed. Date, November 6th, 2027. Item, mother's funeral. Total, unpaid. I stepped toward it without thinking. The faceless cashier turned its head slightly, listening to something I couldn't hear. Evan's voice came from behind me, quieter now. Don't pay for that. I looked back. He wasn't smiling anymore. What happens if I do? Evan looked down at his boots. You stay until someone buys you. The register drawer popped open. Inside was not cash. It was full of teeth. Adult teeth. Baby teeth. Gold fillings. Molars with bits of dark root still attached. The cashier extended one smooth hand toward me. On its palm was the receipt from my vest pocket. Tomorrow's date. Register 17. One childhood memory returned. At the bottom, beneath the total, a new line printed itself. Signature required. I ran. The courtyard folded into shelves. The creek became a row of freezer doors. The sky snapped back into fluorescent lights. I knocked over the shopping cart, and the red boots spilled across the floor. Something behind me made a sound like a receipt printer grinding through bone. Danny, Evan called. This time his voice was wrong. Too low. Too close. I didn't look back. The aisle stretched longer with every step. Products flew off the shelves around me. A snow globe from my grandparents' house shattered at my feet. A pack of cigarettes my father smoked burst open, filling the air with stale tobacco. The VHS tape unspooled itself, black ribbon wrapping around my ankles like wet hair. Then I saw a blue shape ahead. Ray. He stood under the glowing 17 sign, holding the aisle open like a curtain. His face was pale and sweating. Move, he said. I dove toward him. For 1 second, I felt hands on the back of my vest. Small hands. A child's grip. Then Ray grabbed my collar and yanked. I hit the floor of aisle 16 hard enough to split my lip. The store came roaring back. Freezers humming. Lights buzzing. A pallet jack rattling somewhere far away. My scanner lay under the cereal pallet, still missing its battery cover. Aisle 17 was gone. Ray stood over me, breathing hard. There was a red mark around his wrist shaped like fingers. What was that? I asked. Ray looked at the empty space beyond aisle 16. You didn't buy anything, did you? I shook my head. He crouched and pulled something from my vest pocket. The receipt. His face changed when he saw it. You signed? No. He turned the paper over. On the back, in black marker, were 2 words. Not yet. Ray drove me home at sunrise. He didn't say much. In the passenger seat, I watched the receipt curl and uncurl in my lap like it was breathing. When we reached my mother's trailer, Ray told me never to go back to that store. What about my job? You don't have one, he said. Not anymore. I asked how he knew so much. He looked at my front door for a long time. My wife worked cosmetics in 1998, he said. Aisle 17 had her baby blanket, then her first doll, then a birthday cake for a birthday she hadn't had yet. What happened to her? Ray put the truck in reverse. She got a discount. I quit that morning. Marlene didn't sound surprised when I called. She didn't ask for my vest back. She only said, I'm glad you made it out before inventory. I tried to tell myself I had hallucinated everything. Stress, grief, lack of sleep. Maybe someone slipped something into my coffee. I kept the receipt in a shoebox under my bed because throwing it away felt worse than keeping it. 2 weeks passed. My mother got better. I found day work unloading trucks for a furniture warehouse. I stopped waking up at 3 o'clock. Then yesterday, I took my mom to the pharmacy. Not Walmart. I'm not that stupid. A small place on Bender Street with dusty greeting cards and a bell above the door. While she waited for her prescription, I walked past a rack of batteries, phone chargers, and cheap toys. At the end of the aisle, there was a receipt printer sitting on an empty shelf. No register. No cord. No reason to be there. It clicked once. A strip of paper slid out. I didn't touch it at first. I just stood there while my mother called my name from the counter. Then the paper dropped to the floor. I read it without picking it up. Register 17. Cashier, Evan. Item, Daniel Crow. Status, return approved. And underneath that, in small printed letters, was the part that made me leave my mother's prescription behind and run into the street. Customer pickup, 3 a.m. Story 2. I knew something was wrong when Register 12 printed a receipt at 2:17 in the morning. even though the lane had been unplugged for 3 years. Not when we heard scratching over the cereal aisle. Not when customers complained about whispering above electronics. It was the receipt that made me stop pretending this was rats. The paper was yellowed before it even touched the floor, curled like it had been sitting in a drawer for decades. At the top, where the store number should have been, it said, "Thank you for coming back, Mara." Under that was an employee discount number. My father's employee discount number. The same number my mother had written on every police report after he disappeared in 2009. My name is Mara Ellis. I'm 29, and at the time this happened, I was working overnight stocking at the Walmart outside Cedar Ridge, Iowa, off County Road 18. I had only been there 6 weeks. I took the job because my mother's medical bills had started coming in blue envelopes, and because I needed something with hours nobody else wanted. I was divorced, behind on rent, and sleeping on a pull-out couch in my mother's living room under a ceiling fan that clicked all night. My father, Daniel Ellis, had worked maintenance at that same Walmart when I was a kid. He vanished after a closing shift when I was 12. His truck was still in the parking lot. His lunchbox was in the break room fridge. His badge was never found. People in town decided he ran away. My mother never did. I hadn't told anyone at work who he was. I didn't want pity, and I didn't want questions. So when that receipt came out of Register 12 and whispered across the tile in the air conditioning draft, I picked it up fast and shoved it in my vest pocket before Jamal from security could see it. Jamal was 22, skinny, always sipping gas station coffee from a cup the size of a flower vase. He was watching the front cameras when it happened. His face was pale in the blue monitor light. "You hear that?" he asked. Above us, something dragged itself across the ceiling. Not the quick skitter of an animal. This was slow, weighty, like a refrigerator box being pulled through dust. Jamal looked up. A ceiling tile over lane 10 lifted half an inch, then settled back into place. He laughed once, but it came out wrong. "Rats?" he said. "Rats don't lift tiles." He didn't answer. Management had a speech for it. Old building. Bad vents. Pest issue. Nothing to worry about. Customers weren't buying it. That first week, a woman in Home Goods abandoned a cart full of towels and ran to the front saying someone above her had been breathing through the ceiling. A man shopping for headphones said he heard his own name whispered from above the TV display. A little boy pointed at a tile near the toy aisle and said, "There's a face in the square." The assistant manager, Ted Barlow, told us to stop repeating stories. Ted was one of those men who smiled with only the lower half of his face. He wore polished shoes on overnight shift and kept his radio volume too low, like he didn't want anyone hearing who talked to him. "Sound travels funny in big stores," he told me one night while I was facing canned soup. "People get tired. They imagine things." I wanted to believe him. Then I found the first hole. It was in the drop ceiling above electronics, right over the glass case where we kept prepaid phones. The tile wasn't broken exactly. It had been pushed aside just enough to leave a dark crescent. Around the metal frame were scratches, deep and parallel, cut through the white paint. I stood there with a box cutter in one hand and listened. From above came a soft plastic crinkle, like someone opening a candy wrapper. "Hello," I said. The crinkling stopped. Then, very calmly, a man's voice whispered, "Aisle 6. I backed away so fast I knocked over a cardboard display of phone chargers. There was no one in aisle 6 when I checked. Just shelves of laundry detergent and a single shopping cart sitting sideways, one wheel still turning. Inside the cart was a child's pink sneaker. No child was reported missing that night. No frantic parent. No call over the intercom. But the sneaker stayed in lost and found for 3 days until it disappeared too. I started watching the ceiling instead of the shelves. That's when I noticed the pattern. The tiles moved only when someone shopped alone. A man comparing microwaves and home goods. A teenage girl looking at phone cases. An elderly customer in pharmacy reading labels under the humming lights. Always when they drifted into a quiet aisle. Always when the nearest employee turned away. One night, at 3:04, I saw a tile above automotive slide open and a hand reach down. It was too long. Not monstrous. That would have been easier. It looked human, but stretched by hunger and darkness. Pale wrist, dirty sleeve, nails dark with something packed underneath. The fingers hovered over a man in a camouflage jacket who was crouched to look at motor oil. I dropped a case of windshield fluid on purpose. The sound cracked through the aisle. The hand snapped back up. The man looked at me, annoyed. "You okay?" he asked. I said yes because I didn't know how to say, "Something above you just changed its mind." After that, Rosa from maintenance started walking with me during breaks. Rosa had worked there since before I was born. She was small, gray-haired, and chewed peppermint gum like she was mad at it. She carried keys on a retractable chain and never looked directly at the ceiling. On my 7th night, she handed me a cup of burnt break room coffee and said, "You should transfer." I tried to smile. "Because of the rats?" She stirred sugar into her coffee with a red straw. "Rats leave droppings," she said. "This leaves wrappers." I showed her the receipt. For the first time since I met her, Rosa stopped chewing. "Where did you get that?" "Register 12. She folded the receipt once, then unfolded it, like she was checking whether it was real. "You don't show Ted," she said. "Why?" Rosa glanced at the break room camera in the corner. "Your father was a good man." My throat went dry. "You knew him?" She looked at me then, and there was something in her face I didn't want to understand. "He heard things too." Before I could ask more, Ted walked in. Rosa slipped the receipt back into my hand and said louder, "Freezer door sticks again." Ted watched us for a second. Then he smiled his half-smile. "Mara," he said, "you're needed in electronics." I didn't go right away. I waited until he left, then asked Rosa what my father had heard. She shook her head. "Not here." That was all she would say. The halfway point, the moment everything changed, came from the security footage. It was supposed to be deleted. Jamal called me to the office around 4:30, when the store was empty except for overnight crew and the floor scrubber humming near grocery. His hands were shaking so badly he spilled coffee on the desk. "You need to see this now," he said. The footage was from the night before, Home Goods, 2:51 a.m. A customer I remembered, a woman in a green coat, stood alone in the curtain aisle. She was holding 2 curtain rods, comparing lengths. Above her, one ceiling tile lifted. The woman froze. She looked up, confused. A hand dropped down and touched her hair. Not grabbed, touched, like someone recognizing a pet. She stepped back, opened her mouth, and the entire tile above her vanished. 2 arms came down. They hooked under her shoulders and pulled her up so fast one of her shoes stayed on the floor. The rods clattered on the tile. The ceiling closed. Jamal paused the video. Neither of us spoke. Then the camera distorted. Static rolled across the screen. For one frame, maybe less, the ceiling above Home Goods wasn't a ceiling. It was a row of faces pressed between the metal bars. Not one man. Several. Some wearing old blue Walmart vests. One of them looked directly at the camera. He had my father's eyes. Jamal backed away from the desk. "No," he said. "No, no, no." The office printer came on behind us. It printed a receipt. Jamal didn't touch it, so I did. The item line read, "Employee access, overhead storage, aisle 6. Under it was a barcode and a time. 5:15 a.m. 15 minutes before sunrise. At the bottom, in faint gray letters, it said, "Daniel Ellis clocked in." That should have been enough for me to leave. But my father had been missing for 17 years, and all I had ever had of him was a cracked fishing photo, his old denim jacket, and my mother's certainty that he hadn't abandoned us. So I made the kind of choice people call stupid when they hear stories like this. I went to aisle 6. Rosa found me there before the time on the receipt. She had a ladder and a flashlight with tape around the handle. "I knew you would," she said. "Is he alive?" She looked up at the ceiling. "Sometimes." That was the only answer she gave. At 5:15, the fluorescent lights flickered once. Then the tile above the laundry detergent shifted open by itself. A smell came down so thick I covered my mouth. Dust, spoiled meat, wet cardboard, and old sweat trapped in insulation. Rosa climbed first. "Stay behind me," she whispered. Do not answer if anyone calls you by name. The crawl space above Walmart was not the narrow gap it should have been. That's what I still cannot explain. From below, the store was one floor, flat roof, vents, pipes. But above the ceiling tiles was a low, dark maze stretching farther than the building allowed. Wooden planks had been laid across beams. Extension cords ran like vines. There were nests made of stolen blankets, empty peanut butter jars, half-eaten rotisserie chickens, shoes arranged in pairs, wallets without cash, hundreds of little things people had lost and stopped asking about, and employee badges. They hung from wires stapled to the beams. Old badges, new badges, faces faded by damp air. I saw Ted Barlow's badge hanging there too. Only Ted was still downstairs. "Rosa," I whispered. She put a finger to her lips. From somewhere ahead came a man humming the Walmart jingle, slow and off-key. Then a voice said, "Mara." It was my father's voice. Not how he sounded when I was 12. How he sounded in old home videos. Warm, tired, familiar enough to hurt. I almost answered. Rosa grabbed my wrist hard. We moved through the crawl space on hands and knees. Below us, through gaps in the tiles, I could see the store waking up. Morning crew arriving. Lights brightening. Nobody looking up. We reached a section above electronics where the space widened into a room. That was where they watched. Dozens of holes had been made in the tiles, each no wider than a coin. Through them, you could see the aisles below like scenes on security monitors. There were handwritten notes taped to beams. Man in red buys beer every Friday. Girl with braid hides makeup and purse. Mara works soup on Thursdays. Beside my name was a receipt, the one from Register 12. My receipt. Pinned next to it was my father's badge. Daniel Ellis. Maintenance. The photo was scratched over the mouth. Behind me, someone whispered, "He kept you safe." I turned. Ted Barlow was crouched at the entrance to the room. His polished shoes were covered in gray dust. Rosa raised the flashlight like a weapon. Ted smiled. "Rosa, you were supposed to retire before this got messy." "What is this?" I asked. Ted looked almost disappointed in me. "A store needs people watching after it." From behind him, more shapes gathered in the dark. Men and women in old vests. Thin faces. Reflective eyes. Some looked sick. Some looked dead. One had a name tag from 1998. And then my father crawled into the flashlight beam. I knew him instantly, even though he was thinner than any living person should be. His beard hung in gray ropes. His lips were split. One eye was clouded white. But it was him. "Dad," I said. His face trembled like he was trying to remember what that word meant. Ted spoke softly. "He stayed because he heard them calling your name. Even back then, he made a trade." My father's hand lifted. And it was a receipt printer cutter blade, sharpened to a little silver tooth. Rosa whispered, "Run." The ceiling erupted. Hands came from every side, grabbing at our vests, our hair, our ankles. Rosa swung the flashlight. It hit someone's face with a wet crack. I crawled backward, choking on dust, while Ted kept talking in that calm manager voice. "You were always on the schedule, Mara." My father lunged. Not at me. At Ted. They slammed into the beams together. The old wood groaned. A tile broke beneath them, and daylight from the store burst up through the hole. Below, someone screamed. Rosa shoved me toward the opening. "Drop!" I fell through the ceiling into electronics and landed on a display of phone cases. Pain shot through my shoulder. Ceiling dust rained down around me. Rosa fell next, hard, cutting her cheek on broken plastic. Above us, my father held the tile frame with both hands. For 1 second, his face was almost human again. "Don't come back early," he said. Then hands pulled him into the dark. The police came. Then corporate people. Then men in clean jackets who didn't introduce themselves. They found food wrappers, wallets, badges, and what they called evidence of unauthorized habitation. They did not find Ted Barlow. They did not find the woman in the green coat. They did not find my father. The store closed for structural inspection and reopened 3 months later with new ceiling tiles and brighter lighting. My mother died that winter. I moved 2 counties away and took a job at a pharmacy where the ceiling is solid plaster. I don't shop at Walmart anymore. I don't go into big stores after dark. I sleep with the radio on because silence still sounds like someone holding their breath above me. For a while, I thought leaving was enough. Then last Tuesday, I came home from work and found a Walmart bag hanging from my apartment doorknob. Inside was my father's old employee badge and a receipt. No store number, no cashier name, just one item line printed in faded gray ink. Employee transfer, Mara Ellis. At the bottom, under the barcode, was a time, 2:17 a.m. And beneath that, one sentence, "Thank you for coming back." Story 3. The receipt slid out of Mr. Danner's blue vest at 9:42 p.m., warm as a hand, even though the date printed across the top was November 28, 2014. I remember the time because I was supposed to clock out at 9:45, and I had already wiped down register 7 twice just to look busy. The store was almost empty, the way our Walmart got after 9 on weeknights, when the fluorescent lights seemed louder than the customers. Outside, rain had turned the parking lot black and shiny, and the cart corrals rattled every time the wind came through. Mr. Danner stood by the automatic doors with both hands folded over his stomach, smiling at everyone who left. "Good night, Mara," he called. I hadn't told him my name. I was 17 then, working evenings in Barlow Creek, Ohio, a town with 2 stoplights, 3 churches, and 1 Walmart that everyone treated like a community center. My full name is Mara Beck, and I took that cashier job because my mother's medical bills had started arriving in envelopes thick enough to make the mailbox hang crooked. Mom had kidney problems, not the kind people ask about casually, the kind that makes adults lower their voices in the kitchen. My dad had been gone 2 years by then. Car accident, county road, late rain. That was the official story. The unofficial one was that he drank too much after losing his Walmart management job and never really came back from whatever happened there. Nobody talked about it around me. Mr. Danner showed up the week before Thanksgiving. He was old, but not frail. Tall, neatly shaved, white hair combed flat, with a blue vest so clean it looked freshly ironed. His smile was the first thing people noticed. It didn't flicker. It didn't tire. He smiled when customers yelled about coupons. He smiled when toddlers screamed. He smiled at shoplifters like he was blessing them on their way out. And he knew everyone. "Morning, Sylvia. How's that new porch light?" "Evening, Coach. Left me still aching." "Hello, Pastor Dean." We all make mistakes. People loved him at first. In a small town, being remembered feels like being cared for. The elderly ladies brought him peppermint candies. Truckers shook his hand. Kids asked for stickers from the roll he kept in his vest pocket. I explained the name thing away. Everybody in Barlow Creek knows everybody, and if they don't, they know their cousin. Maybe he studied Facebook. Maybe management gave him customer loyalty information. Maybe he just listened carefully. Then one night he looked at me over the top of a shopping cart and said, "Your mother shouldn't skip the Thursday appointment, Mara. Fluid builds when we pretend it doesn't." I dropped a roll of receipt paper. Mom had told me that in our kitchen that morning, standing barefoot beside the sink, whispering because she didn't want my younger brother to hear. No one else knew. Not my manager. Not my friends. Not even my aunt yet. Mr. Danner only smiled. "You have a good night now." That was the first time his smile made me step backward. The accidents began small enough for people to laugh them off. A man named Dennis Pike walked past Mr. Danner without answering him. Dennis was always in a hurry, always on his phone, always acting like politeness was a tax. Mr. Danner said, "Hello, Dennis," and Dennis kept walking. 10 minutes later, in the parking lot, one of the big metal cart rows broke loose from the corral. The wind pushed it across the asphalt like it had somewhere to be. It hit Dennis's truck door just as he opened it, bending the edge into his leg. He needed 12 stitches. The next one was Mrs. Givens. She ignored Mr. Danner because she was angry about a return. He called after her, "Have a pleasant evening, Ruth." She didn't turn around. Her tire blew before she reached the stop sign at Mill Road. The police said she must have run over something sharp, But my friend Keisha found a line of tiny silver staples spread behind her car, perfectly straight, like someone had sprinkled them by hand. After that, employees started saying hello even when they didn't want to. Keisha worked customer service and wore glitter eyeliner, no matter what shift she had. She was the first person who admitted out loud that something was wrong. "Don't let him say your name twice," she told me while we were restocking plastic bags. I asked what she meant. She looked toward the front doors. Mr. Danner was helping a little boy unzip his coat. His smile shone beneath the white entrance lights. "My aunt used to work here," Keisha said. "She quit after Black Friday. She said this store remembers people." "That doesn't mean anything." Keisha pressed a bundle of bags flat with both hands. "It did when she said it." Before I could ask more, our assistant manager, Diane, came around the corner and told us to stop whispering where customers could see. The receipt stayed in my locker for 3 days. I had picked it up after it fell from Mr. Danner's vest. I don't know why I didn't hand it back. Maybe because the paper felt too warm. Maybe because the date bothered me. Maybe because the items printed on it made no sense. 1 blue vest, 1 folding chair, 1 roll of smile stickers, 1 24-pack of bottled water. Total, $19.84. At the bottom, beneath the barcode, someone had written in faded black pen, "He missed me at the door." I searched the transaction number on a breakroom computer while Diane smoked outside by receiving. Nothing came up. I tried the date. November 28th, 2014. Black Friday. That was when the store's old maintenance man found me. His name was Lyle, and he had worked there long enough that his hands looked permanently dusted with cardboard. He saw the receipt on the desk and stopped moving. "Where'd you get that?" I said. "It fell out of Danner's vest." Lyle's eyes moved to the security mirror in the corner. "That man's name isn't Danner." "What is it?" He didn't answer at first. He shut the office door halfway, not all the way, like he still wanted a way out. "Harold Danner died right here 10 years ago, he said. Vestibule. Black Friday morning. People were pushing in before the doors were fully open. He was the greeter. I laughed once because I didn't know what else to do. Lyle didn't. They said heart attack. That was easier. Easier than what? He rubbed his jaw, then saying nobody stopped, then saying he was still smiling when they carried him past seasonal. A sound came from the hallway then. Wheels squeaking. Lyle took the receipt from my hand, folded it once, and pushed it back to me. "Do yourself a favor. Burn it." That night, I waited until Mom fell asleep in her recliner and searched Harold Danner on my phone under the blankets. The articles were short. Local paper. Grainy photo. Beloved Walmart associate dies during holiday rush. He was 71. Retired from the post office. Widower. Known for remembering names. In the photo, he stood by the same automatic doors, wearing the same blue vest. The smile was identical. Not similar. Identical. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Mr. Danner started greeting me by my father's name. "Evening, Mara Beck," he said softly as I arrived for my shift. "Caleb's girl." I froze between the carts and the claw machine. My dad's name on his badge had been Cal, not Caleb. Only family used Caleb. Mr. Danner's eyes wrinkled happily. "He passed me, you know." I couldn't move. Everyone passed me. But Caleb looked down. The automatic doors opened behind him, letting in a rush of cold air and wet leaves. For 1 second, reflected in the glass, I saw the vestibule packed shoulder to shoulder with people who weren't there. Faces blurred. Mouths open. Hands reaching for discounted televisions and cheap towels. Then the reflection cleared. Mr. Danner tilted his head. "You look just like him when you decide not to help." I spent the rest of my shift scanning items with fingers that kept missing the barcodes. At break, I called Mom. She sounded tired and irritated, the way she did when pain had made everything personal. "Did Dad ever talk about Harold Danner?" I asked. The line went quiet except for the hum of our old refrigerator at home. "Why?" "Just tell me." She breathed through her nose. "Your father was working that morning. Harold collapsed by the doors. Cal said he couldn't get through the crowd. But did he try?" Mom didn't answer quickly enough. "Mara," she said finally, "your father came home with blood on one shoe. Not his." He threw the shoe away in the outside trash and sat in the shower with his uniform on. I asked why no one told me. Because you were 7. Because he begged me not to. Because after that, he started hearing someone say hello from empty rooms. The lights in the break room buzzed once and went dim. On the table in front of me was the receipt. I had left it in my locker. Fresh ink had appeared beneath the first message. Caleb never said hello. I walked out before the end of my shift. Diane followed me to the front, angry enough that her keys jingled with each step. "You walk out now, don't bother coming back." Mr. Danner stood beside the doors. His hands were folded. His smile was waiting. "Good night, Mara," he said. I did not answer. I don't know why. Pride, maybe. Fear. Maybe some stupid need to prove there were rules, and people didn't get to make you obey them just by smiling. The doors opened. The rain had stopped, leaving fog low over the parking lot. My old Civic sat beneath the flickering light near row G. I made it halfway there before every cart in the nearest corral turned at once. Not rolled. Turned. Their front wheels snapped in my direction with little metallic clicks. Then they came loose. I ran between parked cars. Carts hit bumpers behind me, one after another, setting off alarms in sharp bursts. A minivan's headlights flashed. Somewhere a woman screamed. My shoes slipped on wet oil near the garden center pickup lane, and a cart slammed into the car beside me hard enough to cave in the door. The automatic doors opened again behind me. Mr. Danner stepped out into the orange parking lot light. He didn't hurry. "Mara," he called. The cart stopped. Every single one, all at once. He stood at the edge of the crosswalk, rainwater dripping from the awning behind him, his smile stretched wide and patient. "You forgot something." He held up the receipt. I backed toward my car, fumbling for my keys. "Your father forgot too," he said. "That is how people get hurt." My hands shook so badly I dropped the keys under the Civic. When I crouched to grab them, I saw shoes beneath the cars around me. Dozens of them. Work boots, slippers, sneakers, Black Friday shoppers' shoes, all standing still in the fog. No legs above the bumpers. Just shoes. A whisper moved through the parking lot. "Hello. Hello. Hello." I grabbed the keys, got in, and locked the doors. The engine turned over on the third try. Mr. Danner was at my passenger window by then, close enough that his breath fogged the glass. He tapped the receipt against the window. Tap, tap, tap. His smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. I don't remember deciding to speak. I only remember the words leaving me, thin and childish. "Hello, Mr. Danner." His tapping stopped. For the first time, his smile loosened. Not disappeared. Loosened like a string had been cut. The fog around the cars thinned. The shoes were gone. He leaned close to the glass and whispered, "That was for you, not for him." Then he stepped backward into the dark between the cart corrals. I drove home without turning on the radio. At every red light, I expected to see him standing beside the road, smiling into my window. When I got home, Mom was awake in the recliner with all the lamps on. She took one look at me and started crying. The police came the next morning because 3 cars in the Walmart parking lot had been damaged overnight. Diane said the security cameras showed me leaving in a hurry, but not Mr. Danner. Not the carts moving by themselves. Not anything I told them. The store manager claimed they had no employee named Harold Danner on payroll. By noon, the greeter position was empty. By Friday, there was a folding table near the entrance with free coffee, as if that could cover the gap where he had stood. I quit. Keisha quit too. Lau retired without saying goodbye. Mom and I moved to my aunt's place in Dayton after Christmas. New town, new store, new doctors. I tried to convince myself that Barlow Creek had been sick in some way I didn't understand, and once we left it, we were safe. For almost a year, nothing happened. Then, last November, Mom asked me to pick up cranberry sauce from the Walmart near my aunt's apartment. I almost didn't go, but it was noon, bright outside, crowded with normal people complaining about checkout lines and turkeys. No elderly greeter stood at the door. I bought the cranberry sauce, a pack of batteries, and a cheap pair of gloves. The cashier handed me the receipt without looking at me. In the car, before I started the engine, I noticed the paper was warm. The date at the top was November 28th, 2014. At the bottom, where the total should have been, it said, "He remembers your name." Story 4. The red clearance sticker on the toddler sneaker had my daughter's name written under the price. $1. Abby Ruiz. I was standing in the back aisle of the Walmart on Harrow Creek Road, holding one small pink shoe that should have been in my apartment closet 7 miles away, and somewhere beyond the shelves, a child began crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just tired little sobs, the kind Abby made when she woke up from a fever and forgot where she was. I almost dropped the shoe into the bin. The store around me was nearly empty. It was 12:43 a.m., raining hard enough that water ticked against the skylights like thrown rice. The overnight floor machine was whining near grocery. Fluorescent lights flickered over the home goods aisle. Somewhere near the front, a cashier laughed once, then stopped. I told myself the name was a coincidence. Abby was a common enough name. Ruiz was common enough too, especially in a town like Millstone, Kansas, where half the people worked at the meat plant, the hospital, or that Walmart. But the shoe wasn't just similar to Abby's. It had the same glittery butterfly charm on the Velcro strap, the same gray scuff on the toe from when she dragged it along the curb outside our building, the same little purple marker dot inside the heel, where I had written an A so her preschool teacher wouldn't mix them up. My name is Elena Ruiz, but everybody calls me Lena. I was 32 then, working 12-hour shifts as a home health aide, cleaning people who were too sick to sit up and pretending I wasn't one missed paycheck away from losing my apartment. My husband had left the year before for a woman who sold insurance and posted inspirational quotes over beach pictures. My mother watched Abby while I worked nights, but that week my mother had bronchitis, and I'd been balancing childcare bills and a daughter who kept asking why Daddy's new house had a bigger TV. That night, Abby was home asleep with Mrs. Hanley from downstairs, wrapped in a yellow blanket and fighting a low fever. I had gone to Walmart for children's Tylenol, soup, and the cheapest humidifier I could find. I was not supposed to be in the clearance aisle. I only stopped because of the music box. It was sitting on top of a blue plastic clearance bin near the end of home goods, turning by itself. No batteries, no lid open. Just a dusty little box with a painted ballerina inside, rotating slowly to a tune I half recognized from childhood. Around it were random things that didn't belong together. A cracked porcelain doll with one eyelash missing. A man's work glove stiff with dried mud. A hospital bracelet. A baby blanket with brown stains in the corners. A single silver hoop earring. A scarf folded so neatly it looked displayed, except one edge was dark and stiff. Every item had a red clearance sticker. Every sticker had a name written under the price in black marker. I remember one clearly. $3. Melissa Klein. The name meant nothing to me at first. I figured it was some ugly returns bin, the kind employees ignored until the end of the month. Damaged items, lost and found, stuff people left in carts. Maybe the names were from claims or returns. Then I picked up Abby's shoe. The crying started from somewhere past the toy aisle. "Abby?" I called before I could stop myself. The sobbing cut off. Behind me, a man's voice said, "Ma'am, that bin isn't open yet." I turned so fast the shoe squeaked in my hand. An employee stood at the end of the aisle in a blue vest that looked too large for him. He was maybe 60, maybe older, with hair combed flat to his skull and a name tag that said Warren. He had one hand resting on the handle of an empty stocking cart. His smile was polite. That made it worse. "I'm sorry," I said. "I found my daughter's shoe." Warren looked at the shoe, then at me. "No," he said softly. "You found the price." I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. "What does that mean?" He glanced toward the ceiling cameras, then pushed his cart forward 1 inch. One wheel squealed. "Put it back on top," he said. "Don't dig. Is this lost and found?" "Not anymore." The floor machine stopped whining in grocery. The whole store went quiet at once. Warren leaned closer. "If you hear her again, don't follow it." Before I could ask who he meant, the intercom clicked overhead. A woman's cheerful recorded voice said, "Customer assistance needed in clearance." Warren's face changed. He took one step backward, then another. "Go home," he whispered. The lights above the bin buzzed, and when they steadied, Warren was gone. I don't mean he walked away while I looked down. I was staring right at him. There was a stocking cart. There was a squeaky wheel. Then there was only wet floor shine where he had been standing. I should have left. I know that, but I had Abby's shoe in my hand, and Mrs. Hanley wasn't answering her phone. I called twice, straight to voicemail. My phone battery was at 18%. I tried my apartment camera, but the app kept spinning. The crying came again, this time from toys. I put the shoe in my cart and followed. Not because I was brave, because I was a mother, and because fear gets rearranged when it sounds like your child. It stops being something behind you and becomes something you have to walk toward. The toy aisle was empty, except for one of those ride-on plastic cars sitting sideways in the middle of the floor. Its headlights were on. I could smell rubber, dust, and the fake strawberry scent from a spilled bottle of kids' shampoo nearby. On the shelf beside the dolls, someone had lined up red clearance stickers in a neat row. $2. Kara Watts, 75 cents. Devin Price, $5. Ana Marquez. I knew one of those names. Everybody in Millstone knew Kara Watts. She had vanished from that Walmart in 2016, right before Christmas. 17 years old. Last seen buying gift wrap and a phone charger. Her mother had stood outside the entrance every December afterward with a poster until the store manager asked police to remove her. I looked back toward the clearance bin. The music box was still playing. Slowly now. Wrong notes. I pushed my cart back to the bin, hands damp on the plastic handle. There were more items underneath the top layer. A cracked phone with a sticker that said Devin Price. A child's blue mitten with T. Harper. A pair of reading glasses with Melissa Klein. Each thing looked used, personal, abandoned in the middle of ordinary life. Then I found the scarf. The dark stain wasn't rust. The sticker said Kara Watts. Under the name, in smaller writing, someone had written, "Seasonal markdown." I started taking pictures. The first photo saved. The second blurred. The third showed something that wasn't there in front of me. In the photo, behind the clearance bin, stood a little girl in yellow pajamas. Abby's pajamas. I spun around. No one. The intercom clicked again. This time the voice wasn't recorded. "Elena Ruiz," it said. "Please return your unwanted items to clearance." My mouth went dry. I hadn't told anyone my name. A woman stepped into the aisle from Home Goods. She wore a Walmart vest over a long brown coat, and her gray hair was pinned with a plastic butterfly clip. She looked about 70, with kind eyes and hands folded neatly at her waist. "You shouldn't have touched the shoe," she said. "Where is my daughter?" The woman blinked slowly. "At home, probably." "Then why is her shoe here?" "Because you brought her in before." I shook my head. "No, not tonight. Not tonight." The way she said it made me think of something old being opened. I knew that butterfly clip. I had seen it in a photograph on my mother's dresser for 20 years. My younger sister, Lucia, had worn one just like it the day she disappeared. I was 12. Lucia was 5. My mother brought us to that same Walmart to buy school supplies. I wanted a CD from electronics, and Lucia kept begging to look at the clearance toys in the back. I told her to wait by the bin. Just for a minute. I was gone maybe 10. When I came back, she was not there. The cameras never showed her leaving. No one saw a man take her. No body was found. My mother stopped saying my name for almost a year. I had spent 2 decades telling myself I was a child too. That it wasn't my fault. That bad things happen in public places under bright lights. The old woman nodded, as if she heard all of it. "Clearance keeps what people leave behind," she said. I didn't leave her. Her kind expression didn't change. "You went to electronics." The crying started again, directly under the bin. Not behind it. Not past it. Under it. I grabbed the plastic edge and pulled. The bin should have been light. It was one of those cheap waist-high dump bins on wheels, filled with junk. It didn't move. The old woman placed one hand on the rim. "Don't look for the bottom," she said. But I already had. I dug. The top items were old, dusty, things from years ago. A cassette player, a stained backpack, a brittle photo strip from a mall booth. Then the items became newer. A smartwatch with a cracked face, a vape pen, a Kansas State hoodie still smelling faintly of detergent, a set of press-on nails, a receipt from 3 months earlier, a kid's retainer case with a name printed in blue. The deeper I reached, the warmer the items felt, like they had just been held. At the center was a plastic employee name tag. Warren. I looked up. The old woman was gone. At the end of the aisle stood Warren. Not the man I had seen before. This Warren was younger in the face but hollow around the eyes, his blue vest faded almost white. He raised one finger to his lips. Behind him, the shelves shifted. The aisle stretched longer. The toy section slid away into darkness, shelf by shelf, like the store was quietly rearranging itself around me. My phone rang. Mrs. Hanley. I answered so hard I nearly dropped it. "Lena," she said, whispering. "Are you still at the store? Is Abby okay?" There was a pause. "She's asleep right here." I covered my mouth with one hand. Then Abby's voice came through the phone, small and clear. "Mommy." I almost cried from relief. "Baby, I'm coming home." But Mrs. Hanley spoke over her, panicked now. "Lena, she didn't say that." Behind me, from under the clearance bin, Abby's voice whispered. "Mommy, I found Aunt Lucia." My phone died. The bin tilted by itself. Everything inside slid toward the center, not down but inward, as if there was a hole hidden beneath the pile. Items sank without sound. The scarf. The shoe. Warren's name tag. I grabbed Abby's shoe before it vanished. The lights cut out one row at a time. Grocery. Pharmacy. Clothing. Home goods. Only the clearance aisle stayed lit. Something knocked from inside the bin. 3 small taps. Then a child's hand rose from beneath the objects. It was not Abby's. The fingers were narrow, gray with dust, nails painted chipped pink. Around the wrist was the friendship bracelet I had made for Lucia in 5th grade, purple and green thread with one bead shaped like a star. I couldn't move. The hand opened. In its palm was my car key. My actual key. The black fob with duct tape over the cracked unlock button. The silver house key bent slightly at the tip. The tiny plastic charm Abby had made in preschool, a blue blob she insisted was a whale. A red clearance sticker wrapped around the key ring. $0. Elena Ruiz. Under that, in thick black marker, final markdown. The intercom clicked. Warren's voice came through every speaker in the store. Last chance to reclaim. The hand dropped the keys into the bin. The whole pile began to breathe. I grabbed the rim and reached in. Not for the mystery. Not for Lucia. Not even for the truth. I reached because my keys were the only way out, and Abby was home with a dead phone between us. My fingers closed around the fob. Something grabbed my wrist from underneath. It felt like a child's hand at first, then another, then many. Cold fingers sliding between mine, tugging gently, the way children do when they want to show you something. A voice below me said, "You said wait here." It was Lucia, not a memory of her, not a recording. Lucia, 5 years old forever, angry and tired and close enough that I smelled the grape gum she used to chew. "I came back," I whispered. The grip tightened. "You came back late." The bin jerked forward, dragging me against the metal edge. My shoulder hit hard. I kicked the bottom shelf, knocking down a stack of plastic storage tubs. They crashed across the floor. At the front of the store, someone shouted, "Real people." I screamed as loud as I could. The grip loosened for half a second, maybe startled by the noise, and I tore my arm free. Skin peeled from my wrist where the sticker had stuck to me. I ran with the shoe in one hand and my keys in the other. The store did not make it easy. The main aisle bent wrong. Checkout signs pointed toward sporting goods. The exit doors looked close, then far. A display of discounted pillows toppled behind me by itself. From every red sticker I passed, names seemed to turn toward me. Near the registers, Warren stood beside the lottery machine. He looked tired. "Don't bring the child here," he said. "What child?" He glanced at the shoe. "Either one." The automatic doors opened before I reached them. Rain blew in sideways. I didn't stop until I was in my car with the doors locked and the engine running. My headlights showed the entrance, bright and normal, people moving inside with carts as if nothing had happened. A security guard knocked on my window. He was young, bored-looking, holding his jacket over his head against the rain. "Ma'am, you okay?" I rolled the window down 1 inch. "Call the police," I said. He frowned. "For what?" I looked back at the store. The clearance bin was visible through the glass doors. It sat near the front now, under a yellow sign. "Rollbacks." On top of the pile was the music box, turning slowly. Beside it, red and bright under the lights, was Abby's shoe. But I was holding Abby's shoe in my lap. I drove home without remembering the road. Mrs. Hanley was awake, crying in my kitchen. Abby was asleep on the couch, warm but safe, both feet bare under the blanket. I checked her closet. One pink sneaker was missing. The other sat on the floor where it belonged. I threw away the shoe I had brought from Walmart. I put it in the outside dumpster under coffee grounds and broken glass. Then I packed a bag for Abby and slept at my mother's house until morning. The police took a statement. They searched the store. They found no clearance bin in home goods. No employee named Warren on the current schedule. No old woman with a butterfly clip. They did find one thing. Security footage of me standing alone in the aisle, digging through an empty blue bin. Every few seconds, I looked down and nodded, like someone under the rim was speaking to me. After that, I moved. Different town, different job, different grocery store. I told Abby we don't shop at Walmart because their medicine costs too much. She accepted that. Kids accept the lies that keep bedtime simple. For almost a year, nothing happened. Then last Friday, I opened the dryer in our new apartment laundry room and found a red clearance sticker stuck to the lint trap. No price, no barcode, just my sister's name, Lucia Ruiz. Under it, in handwriting I recognized from my own childhood, were 4 words. She is still waiting. Story 5. The receipt printed with tomorrow's date, before I had even paid for the batteries. I was standing at the self-checkout closest to the garden center doors, one hand in my jacket pocket, the other hovering over the card reader that still said "Please wait." The little thermal printer coughed once, spat out 3 inches of paper, then stopped like it had choked. I tore it loose because that is what you do when a machine gives you something. You take it. At the top, under the Walmart logo, it said, June 18th, 6:05 a.m. The time was wrong. The date was wrong. It was 10:57 at night, June 17th, in a Walmart off Route 9 in Marlow, Ohio, and I had come in for one stupid pack of AA batteries. Below the time, it listed the item I was holding. AA batteries, $6.88. Then one more line. Lucy Leary, return. My name is Owen Leary. I'm 36. I fix heating units for an apartment company, mostly old furnaces that sound like tractors and air conditioners people swear worked fine yesterday. I was divorced, behind on rent, and that week my daughter Ellie was staying with me for the first time in 2 months. She was 6, and she would not sleep without her dinosaur nightlight. The batteries died at 10:40. I told her I'd be gone 10 minutes. My downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, said she'd sit with her. I drove too fast through wet streets, parked near the grocery entrance, and ran inside while an employee in a yellow vest was dragging in the last row of carts. The store looked normal in that exhausted way big stores look at night. Too bright, too empty. A smell of floor cleaner and bakery sugar hanging over everything. An older employee stood by the front, thin as a broom handle, with a gray mustache and a name tag that said Martin. He watched me come in. Closing in 5, he said. Just batteries. He nodded, then looked past me toward the ceiling speakers. Don't answer if it calls you twice. I stopped. What? He smiled like he hadn't meant to say it out loud. Electronics is straight back. I almost asked him to repeat himself, but I was tired, embarrassed about the night light, and thinking of Ellie in my apartment with the blanket pulled up to her chin. So I went. The first wrong thing I explained away. The battery shelf was already half covered by a gray metal shutter, like someone had been lowering it and walked off. I ducked under, grabbed the first pack I saw, and heard a soft click behind me. When I turned, the shutter was all the way down. For 1 second, I thought I had locked myself in that tiny battery alcove. Then it rattled back up by itself. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because sometimes your body grabs the wrong reaction. At the register, when that receipt printed early, I told myself it was a glitch. Machines glitched. Timestamps glitched. Walmart computers probably ran on duct tape and prayer. Then the lights flickered. Not all at once. They went out in rows, beginning near the pharmacy and moving toward the front like a shadow passing through the ceiling. The refrigerators hummed lower. Somewhere far back, a pallet jack squealed and then stopped. The intercom chimed. "Attention shoppers," a woman's voice said, calm and flat. "The store is now closed." I looked toward the entrance. The sliding doors were shut. No cashiers. No Martin. No yellow vest pushing carts. The parking lot beyond the glass was empty, not just free of cars, but wrong in its emptiness. My truck should have been 20 yards from the door under a light pole. There was only wet pavement shining black under a blank sky. I walked to the doors and waved at the sensor. Nothing. I pressed both palms against the glass. It felt colder than outside glass should feel in June. "Hello," I shouted. My voice did not carry. The store swallowed it. I took out my phone. 11% battery. No bars. The intercom chimed again. "Owen Leary, please report to apparel." I stood there with the pack of batteries in my hand and the receipt between my fingers. Nobody had asked for my name. The sensible part of me said there had to be cameras. A manager was watching me. Maybe Martin had read my debit card somehow. Maybe this was some closing time prank for the new guy, except I wasn't the new guy. I was just a tired father in a damp jacket. The intercom chimed. "Owen Leary, please report to apparel." Second call. That was when I remembered Martin's warning. Don't answer if it calls you twice. I did not move at first. Then something tapped the glass behind me. Once. Not from outside. From the reflection. In the reflection of the front doors, behind my shoulder, a woman in a blue Walmart vest stood near the cart corral. Her hair hung over her face. Her head was tilted, like she was trying to read the receipt in my hand. I spun around. The cart corral was empty. The lights over apparel flickered on. Not all of them. Just enough to make a path. I walked because the front doors would not open, because my daughter was asleep 2 miles away, because standing still felt worse than moving. The clothing section had mannequins near the boys' department, posed in summer outfits. Plastic children with smooth faces and price tags hanging from their wrists. I had passed them on the way in. I remembered one in a red hoodie, one in a striped shirt, one with sunglasses. Now there were 4. The new one was smaller than the others. A little girl mannequin in a blue raincoat, one hand lifted toward the aisle. Her feet were bare except for one red sneaker. I knew that sneaker. Not the exact shoe, maybe. Memory is a liar. But the sight of it hit some old locked room in my head. Lucy had a pair like that. Lucy Leary was my older sister. She disappeared when I was 9, and she was 11. For years, I told people I barely remembered the day. A county fair, I used to say. A crowded place. I remembered rain. I remembered my mother screaming my sister's name until her voice broke. That was the story my family carried, because it was easier than the truth. The truth was it happened in a Walmart. This Walmart. Back then it had different floors, different signs, a small arcade near the front, and a snack bar that sold pretzels. My mother worked evenings at the salon next door. She left me and Lucy inside with $10 and a warning not to wander. I wandered anyway. The mannequin's plastic hand lowered while I was looking at it. I heard the tiny joint click. I backed into a rack of children's pajamas. Hangers clattered together. The other mannequins had turned their heads toward me. No faces. No eyes. Still, I knew they were watching. The receipt in my hand had grown longer. A fresh line had printed at the bottom without a printer anywhere near me. Apparel, find what you left. Something moved under the circular rack beside me. A child's whisper said, "Owen?" I ran. I did not care which direction. I cut through shoes, past home goods, past a display of cheap pillows stacked like pale bricks. The store was too large. Every aisle stretched longer than it should have. End caps repeated. I passed the same clearance bin of yellow towels 3 times. Then the cold hit me. The grocery freezers stood ahead, lit from inside with a blue glow. Their glass doors were fogged white. Shapes moved behind them, slow and heavy. The intercom chimed. Owen Leary, frozen foods. No, I said out loud. Every freezer door clicked open half an inch. Whispers leaked out with the cold. Not voices exactly. More like people speaking through bags of ice. You told them outside. Tell it right. She waited. I walked past the pizza doors, keeping to the center of the aisle. My breath came out white. A smear appeared on one freezer door from the inside, as if someone had dragged their palm down the glass. Then words formed in the frost. You let go. That memory came back so hard I had to grab a cart to stay standing. Lucy had not simply vanished. We had been fighting. I wanted to play the racing game in the arcade. She wanted to go look at toys. I called her bossy. She took my sleeve and said Mom would kill us if we split up. I yanked away from her. You let go. The last thing I remembered was Lucy standing under the fluorescent lights, rainwater darkening the shoulders of her blue coat, one red sneaker untied. Then an employee with a gray mustache knelt beside her. I had forgotten his face. Until that night. Martin. A freezer door swung open all the way. Inside, between stacked bags of peas and frost-burned boxes of waffles, sat an old VHS tape with a white label. Leary, 1999. I should have left it. Instead, I took it. The moment my fingers closed around the tape, every freezer door slammed shut. One caught my jacket sleeve and pinned me there. The motor roared. Cold air blasted my face. The glass in front of me fogged until my reflection vanished. On the other side of the door, pressed against the glass from inside the freezer, was Lucy. Not as she would have been now. Not a woman in her 30s. She was 11. Wet hair. Blue raincoat. One red sneaker. She looked tired. She raised her hand. Behind me, a calm voice said, "You came back early." Martin stood at the end of the aisle. Same yellow vest. Same gray mustache. San Nan Tig. He had not aged from the moment buried in my head. I tore my sleeve hard enough to rip the seam and stumbled back. "What did you do to my sister?" He looked disappointed, like I had asked the wrong question. "We kept the ones who were left." The intercom clicked on, but this time his mouth moved with it. "Owen Leary, please report to toys." The toy department was laughing before I reached it. Not loud, not wild, just small bursts of children's laughter from different shelves. A doll giggled when I passed. A stuffed bear turned its head with a dry mechanical buzz. A plastic cash register opened and shut by itself, dinging over and over. At the end of the aisle sat a display TV, the kind they use for game consoles. It was playing security footage, grainy black and white video. A Walmart from 1999. 2 children stood near the arcade, me, skinny and angry, and Lucy in her raincoat. We argued without sound. I pulled away. She followed me halfway, then stopped. The camera view changed. Lucy walked toward toys. Martin appeared beside her. He bent down and said something. She looked toward the front doors, then back toward the aisle where I had gone. He offered her something small and white. A receipt. On the video, Lucy took it. The picture cut to static. Then the TV showed the live aisle I was standing in. My own back filled the screen. Behind me, Lucy stood 3 feet away. I turned so fast my shoes squeaked. No one. On the TV, she remained there, staring at the back of my head. A toy phone rang on the shelf beside me. I picked it up because some part of me had broken down into simple instructions. Lucy's voice came through, thin and close. "You said I went outside." I shut my eyes. After she disappeared, the police asked me where I last saw her. I was 9. I was scared. I knew I had broken the rule. I knew my mother's face would change forever when she found out I left Lucy alone. So I lied. I said she ran outside. They searched the parking lot first. The road. The drainage ditch behind the store. By the time anyone pulled the store tapes, half of them were missing. Martin's name was never in any report I saw. My mother died believing Lucy had tried to cross the road in the rain. The toy phone crackled. She didn't go outside. I know, I said. The laughter stopped. All at once. The receipt in my pocket warmed against my leg. I pulled it out. More lines had printed. Customer admits loss. Return authorized. Final pickup, front doors. The path to the front lit up again. Martin was waiting by the registers. The front doors stood open now, but beyond them was not the parking lot. It was the old Walmart entrance from 1999, with gumball machines by the wall and a row of pay phones. Rain hammered the glass. Lucy stood just outside, holding the receipt. "Owen," she said, "walk me out this time." I wanted to. That is the part one still have trouble saying. I wanted to take her hand and step through those doors. I wanted one clean second where I did not have to be the man who lied, the brother who let go, the father who might pass his damage down to a little girl afraid of the dark. But then my phone buzzed. 1% battery. A voicemail notification appeared from Mrs. Alvarez. I played it on speaker. In the background, Ellie was crying. Mrs. Alvarez said, "Owen," she woke up. "She keeps saying there's a lady in her room asking where you are." The old entrance vanished. The real parking lot was outside again. My truck sat under the light pole, exactly where I had left it. Martin's polite smile thinned. "You were expected," he said. I ran at him. I'm not brave. I don't know what I planned to do. Hit him, push past him, tear that yellow vest off his bones. But when I reached him, my hands went through cold air and struck the sliding doors. They opened. Morning sunlight poured in. I fell onto the pavement with the VHS tape under my arm and the batteries still clenched in my fist. It was 6:05 a.m. The police came because Mrs. Alvarez had called them after I didn't return. The store manager arrived furious and confused, saying their cameras showed me entering at 10:55 and leaving at 6:05, but the overnight cleaning crew swore they had not seen me. I told them about Martin. No employee by that name worked there. I told them about Lucy. That changed how they looked at me. They found my sister's missing person file. They found the old report. They took the VHS tape from me and said they would see what was on it. 2 days later, a detective named Harris called me into a small room with gray walls and bad coffee. He did not play the tape. He played the current security footage from that night. I watched myself walk through apparel, frozen foods, toys. I watched myself talk to empty aisles. I watched freezer doors open on their own. Then Detective Harris paused the video. "Mr. Leary," he said quietly, "who is this?" On the screen, standing behind me in every shot, was Lucy. Sometimes she was at the end of an aisle, sometimes right beside me. In frozen foods, her hand was pressed to the glass from the outside, not the inside. And she was not alone. Behind the racks, between shelves, reflected in cooler doors, there were others. Children, adults, people in old clothes and new clothes, a woman in a nightgown, a man wearing a mechanic's shirt, a little boy holding a single shoe, all of them watching me, all of them waiting near the exits. I moved out of Marlow 3 weeks later. Ellie and I stay with my cousin now, 2 counties over. I don't go into Walmart. I don't shop after sunset. I threw away the jacket with the torn sleeve. The batteries I bought that night are still unopened in my kitchen drawer. Ellie's dinosaur nightlight works anyway. Last night, I found the receipt taped to the bottom of it. The paper was fresh and warm, and under Lucy's name it had printed one new line. Ellie Leary, do not let go. Story 6. The self-checkout in lane 6 printed a hospital bracelet instead of a receipt, and the name on it was mine. It came out curled and warm. Sliding from the slot with that soft paper hissed the machines made after every transaction. Only it wasn't receipt paper. It was pale green plastic, the kind they snap around your wrist before surgery, with a barcode, a date of birth, and my full name printed in black block letters. Nina Marie Alvarez. Under that was one word I stared at too long. Unclaimed. The woman using the machine didn't notice. She was too busy shoving a 12-pack of Diet Coke into her cart and arguing with her son about Pop-Tarts. The screen above her bags flashed normal blue for half a second. Then the camera blinked red. Item not scanned. Customer not human. The woman finally looked up. "What does that mean?" she asked. I was the attendant that night, standing in the little corral of self-checkouts at the Walmart on Bellwether Road, trying to keep 6 machines, 3 impatient customers, and my own unpaid electric bill from swallowing me whole. I was 24, 2 months behind on rent, and working closing shifts because they paid an extra $1 an hour. My mother used to say there were worse things than being tired. She died before she could give examples. The machines had been installed 3 weeks earlier. Corporate called them SmartScan Vision units, but everybody in the store called them the towers because each checkout had a black camera post rising above it, angled down like a bird's head. They were supposed to catch missed scans, fake barcodes, and people pretending a TV was a bag of onions. At first, the worst thing about them was the voice. "Please place item in the bagging area. Unexpected item. Assistance is on the way." It was the same pleasant female voice, smooth and patient, even when customers were cursing at it. But after a week, the voice began pausing before certain words, like it was listening to something under the floor. The first strange message happened to a man buying cat litter and motor oil. He scanned the litter. He scanned the oil. Then he leaned close to the screen to read the total, and the overhead camera clicked. Not beeped. Clicked. Like an old camera taking a picture. The screen flashed. Death detected. The man laughed because people laugh when they don't want to be embarrassed. I cleared the error, apologized, and told him the new system was glitchy. 2 days later, I saw his photo on a missing person post taped to the gas station door. His name was Leonard Voss. Last seen leaving Walmart. His truck was found behind the old car wash with the engine running and the cat litter still in the bed. No blood, no wallet missing, no sign of a fight, just the receipt on the driver's seat. Total, $3.17. I didn't connect it then. Nobody did. People disappear from small towns in quiet ways. They leave because of debt, drugs, marriages, or shame. That's what we tell ourselves so we can buy milk without looking over our shoulders. Then the machines started pricing people. The second week after installation, a woman named Janice Reed came through self-checkout with shampoo, ibuprofen, and a birthday card. I knew her because she had taught music at my middle school and always wore purple scarves, even in August. She scanned the shampoo. Beep. She scanned the ibuprofen. Beep. Before she could scan the card, the camera above lane 3 clicked. The screen showed a grainy black and white image of Janice's face, but it wasn't the face standing in front of me. On the screen, her cheeks looked sunken, her mouth slightly open, her eyes filmed over. Below the image, Janice E. Reed. Markdown item, 88 cents. Janice stared at it, then at me. "That isn't funny," she said. I called my supervisor, Brent, who smelled like spearmint gum and always acted like any problem could be solved by unplugging something. He restarted the register, gave Janice a $10 gift card, and told her the camera had mistaken her scarf for a clearance sticker. She didn't come in again. 4 nights later, her house on Miller Street was found empty with every light on. The birthday card was on the kitchen table. Inside, written in her neat teacher handwriting, were the words. I heard them scanning me. After that, I started writing the prices down. Leonard Voss, $3.17. Janice Reed, 88 cents. A college kid buying ramen, $1.04. An old man with an oxygen tank, $2.12. Every person who got priced under $5 disappeared within a week. The police came once after Janice. They spoke to management in the office and left with coffee. Corporate sent a technician named Miles who wore black latex gloves and never looked directly at the cameras. He told us the system was pulling old data from a mislinked server. What old data? I asked. He tightened a screw on lane 6. Nothing customer-facing. That doesn't answer me. Miles finally looked at me. His eyes moved to my name badge. Nina, you should ask to transfer departments. Why? He packed his screwdriver into a case with foam slots. The camera's like people who watch back. That was the closest thing to a warning I got. The hospital bracelet came out 3 nights later. I took it before the customer could see, folded it once, and slipped it into my vest pocket. For the rest of my shift, I felt it against my ribs, warm and flexible, like it had just been taken off someone's wrist. At 10:16 p.m., after the last customers cleared out and the floor scrubber began crawling down grocery, I used Brent's login to open the diagnostic screen. I shouldn't have known his password, but Brent wrote everything on sticky notes. His locker code, his bank PIN, his manager override. He trusted the world because nothing had ever stepped out of it and looked him in the face. The self-checkout system had folders labeled by department: produce, pharmacy, asset protection, returns. Then there was one labeled st_Agnes_archive. I clicked it. The screen went black. For a moment, my reflection stared back from the glass, washed blue by the register light. Then file names began loading. Patient_intake_1979. Morgue Signou 1983. Pediatric_ward_cam_1991. Obstetric_log. I knew St. Agnes. Everyone in Bellwether did, even though the building had been gone since before I started kindergarten. It used to sit on the hill behind the highway, a Catholic hospital with a red brick chapel and a basement laundry that flooded every spring. After it closed, it stood empty for years. Teenagers broke in. Homeless people slept there. Someone painted angels with black eyes on the nursery walls. Then a developer bought the land, tore the hospital down, flattened the hill, and built Walmart. People joked that the medicine aisle was where the morgue used to be. I opened the obstetric file. Rows of names filled the screen. Mothers, birth dates, times, outcomes. Most said healthy. Some said transferred. Some said deceased. I searched my last name. Alvarez appeared twice. My mother's name first. Rosa Elena Alvarez. Then mine. Baby girl Alvarez. Time of birth, 2:09 a.m. Status, deceased. Revision, living. Property status, unclaimed. My chair rolled backward, so hard it hit the returns counter. I was born at St. Agnes. Mom told me that much. She told me there had been complications. She told me I came out quiet and blue, and then I cried after the doctor worked on me. She never said deceased. She never said revision. She never said unclaimed. Behind me, one of the self-checkout machines woke up. The screen lit by itself. "Please scan your first item," the voice said. The store was closed. I stood up slowly. Lane 6 was glowing. The camera was angled down, not at the scanner bed, not at the bagging area. At me. The screen clicked. My face appeared in black and white. But the image wasn't current. It showed me as a newborn, slick-haired and still, with a tiny hospital bracelet around one purple wrist. A price appeared underneath. Nina M. Alvarez. Return item. 1 cent. The machine spoke again, softer this time. Assistance is on the way. I backed into a rack of gift cards. Several fell and scattered across the floor, bright little rectangles with balloons and cupcakes on them. A door opened near electronics. Not the main door. Not receiving. The gray service door beside Photo Lab. The one nobody used because it led to a storage corridor that always smelled like mildew. A strip of darkness showed behind it. Then I heard wheels. A squeaking gurney wheel is different from a shopping cart. Slower. Hollow. Uneven, like one wheel has a flat spot. The sound came from behind the service door. Squeak. Pause. Squeak. I grabbed the hospital bracelet from my vest and ran. Brent was in the office counting drawers. When I burst in, he spilled rolled quarters across the desk. "Jesus, Nina. Look at this." I threw the bracelet down. He stared at it, and for once the gum stopped moving in his mouth. "Where did you get that?" "Lane 6 printed it." He stood too fast. "Don't say that." "Why?" He looked through the office window toward self-checkout. The lights out there flickered in a neat row, one after another. "My cousin helped with demolition," he said. "They found records in the basement. Patient files, security tapes, boxes of wristbands. Corporate said everything got disposed of. It didn't." Brent swallowed. "Some people said the hospital never discharged everybody." The office phone rang. We both jumped. Brent looked at the caller ID. "Self-checkout 6. He didn't answer. The ringing stopped after 4 times. Then every register in the front end printed at once. Receipts poured from the machines in long white ribbons, spilling onto belts, curling to the floor, whispering over tile. Brent and I stepped out of the office together. Each receipt had a name. Leonard Voss, Janice Reed, the college kid, the old man with the oxygen tank. Names I recognized, names I didn't, all with prices, all under $5. At the bottom of every receipt, in place of a barcode, was the same line: balance due below. The floor beneath self-checkout groaned. Not cracked, groaned, like something underneath was shifting in its sleep. Brent ran to the breaker panel. I ran after him because I didn't want to be alone near those machines. He opened the panel, flipped the switches for front end, and the store dropped into emergency lighting. Red exit signs burned over the doors. The self-checkout screen stayed on. "Battery backup," Brent whispered. Lane 6 turned toward us. I swear the camera turned. The black lens moved inside its housing with a wet little click. Brent stepped in front of me. The screen captured his face. Brent Allen Wicks, manager override, $42.60. For one ridiculous second, I was relieved. Over $5. Then the machine spoke. "Item accepted." Brent vanished between one blink and the next. His keys hit the floor first. Then his gum, still folded in a white wrapper. No flash, no scream, no blood. Just empty air where he had been standing, and the smell of antiseptic rolling across the tile. The service door by Photo Lab opened wider. A fluorescent light flickered beyond it, though that corridor had no lights on. I heard voices from inside. Not clear words. Hospital voices. Pages over speakers. Shoes on wax floors. A baby crying once, then stopping. And under it all, the steady beep of a monitor. I should have run out the front doors. I know that. People always say they would. But my mother's name was in that archive, and Brent had disappeared right in front of me, and the bracelet in my hand still said unclaimed. I needed to know what was claiming us. The corridor behind Photo Lab was longer than it should have been. Walmart storage corridors are ugly, practical places with exposed cinder block and pallets of seasonal junk. This one had white tile halfway up the walls and old green paint above it. The air was colder. It smelled like bleach, wet cardboard, and something sweet gone rotten. A sign hung crooked at the end. Maternity. I found a room that should not have been under the store. There were metal shelves against the walls, filled with old hospital boxes. Patient ledgers, security tapes, wristbands sorted by year. In the center of the room sat a server rack wired into the self-checkout system, its lights blinking red and green like tired eyes. On the desk beside it was a Polaroid. My mother, younger than I remembered her, lying in a hospital bed. Her hair stuck to her forehead, her mouth open mid-cry. A nurse stood beside her holding a tiny bundle. On the back, someone had written, "Baby Alvarez returned before collection." A file folder lay beneath the photo. Inside was a discharge note signed by a doctor whose name had been scratched out. Most of the writing was medical, but one paragraph had been circled in red. Infant showed no pulse for 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Visual response recorded on security camera after death declaration. Camera identified secondary presence attached to infant. Mother refused transfer to lower ward. Infant removed from facility against instruction. Lower ward. Balance due below. I heard the gurney again. This time behind me. I turned. The service corridor was full of people. Not walking, standing. Leonard Voss was there in his work jacket. Janice Reed in her purple scarf. Brent with one hand still curled like he was holding keys. Dozens more filled the hallway behind them, faces pale under flickering light. Every one of them wore a green bracelet. Their eyes were open, but they didn't seem to see me. The self-checkout voice came from the server rack speaker. Return item to bagging area. I looked down. The bracelet in my hand had changed. Nina M. Alvarez. Price adjustment pending. The camera above the server rack clicked. I did the only thing I could think of. I wrapped the bracelet around the lens. The plastic snapped shut with a clean hospital click. For a second, nothing moved. Then every screen in the room lit up at once, though there were no screens before. Security monitors on the walls. Old black and white footage. Maternity rooms. Operating rooms. A basement hall lined with carts. One monitor showed my mother running barefoot, carrying me under her coat. A nurse followed her, not hurrying, just pointing toward the camera. The camera zoomed in on the bundle in my mother's arms. On baby me. My eyes were open. Something else looked out through them. The server rack sparked. The lens cracked under the bracelet. A sound rose beneath the floor. Not a scream, not exactly. More like hundreds of receipts printing at the same time. The people in the hallway turned their heads toward me. Janice spoke first. She paid enough. Then the emergency lights died. I ran blind. My shoulder hit a wall. My knee hit something metal. Hands brushed my vest, my hair, my elbow, but they didn't grab. They guided. Left, then right, then forward through a door that banged open into the garden center. I came out between bags of mulch, gasping in cold air. Fire alarms started going off. The Walmart sprinkler system burst above the front lanes, raining down over candy racks and checkout belts. Customers from the overnight stocking crew stumbled out. Someone yelled for Brent. Someone else yelled that the self-checkout machines were smoking. Nobody found the corridor. By morning, corporate had yellow tape around the front end and a statement ready about an electrical fire. The police asked me the same questions 3 times. I told them about Brent. I told them about the archive. They searched the store. They found water damage, melted wiring, and one black camera tower cracked down the center. No basement room. No hospital boxes. No service corridor longer than 12 feet. No Brent. I left Bellwether 2 weeks later. I live in Columbus now. I work at a laundromat where the machines only take quarters and nobody's face has to be recognized to buy soap. I keep my receipts in a shoebox for a month before throwing them away. I don't use self-checkout anywhere. Not grocery stores. Not pharmacies. Not gas stations. Last night, I woke up at 2:09 a.m. to a sound in my apartment. Beep. I sat up. Beep. My phone was on the nightstand, screen glowing. A Walmart app one never downloaded was open. The front camera showed my face in black and white. Under it was my name. Nina M. Alvarez. Final markdown. $0. Beside the phone, snapped around my wrist, was the pale green bracelet. And the camera had already scanned me. Story 7. The baby monitor showed my apartment kitchen at 12:07 a.m., including the mug I had broken 6 hours earlier and swept into the trash. It sat on the customer service counter between a leaking bottle of detergent and a box of returned headphones, its little screen glowing blue in the dim front end of the store. The customer who brought it in was a thin man in a wet denim jacket. He kept both hands flat on the counter, like he was afraid they might do something on their own. "I need to give this back before it notices," he said. I looked from him to the monitor. On the screen, my kitchen was empty. My yellow dish towel hung from the oven handle. My rent envelope sat beside the microwave, unopened, with a red final notice stamp showing through the plastic window. Then the viewpoint shifted, not like a camera being picked up. Like something standing in the room had leaned closer. I unplugged the monitor. The screen stayed on. At the time, I worked nights at the Walmart on East Harrow Road in Dunmere, Pennsylvania. My name is Tessa Vale. I was 26, divorced before I'd even learned how to explain the marriage, and living alone in a third-floor apartment above a nail salon that smelled like acetone and burned dust. I took the customer service job because nights were quieter and paid slightly more. Also, I hated sleeping. My younger brother, Owen, disappeared when I was 16. One Friday night, he left the house in his red hoodie to buy batteries and cereal, and never came home. The police found his bike behind the Walmart garden center, front wheel bent, one pedal still spinning when the security guard discovered it. My mother never recovered. My father left after the first year of searches. I stayed because somebody had to keep the lights on. 10 years later, I stood behind the return counter in the same store where Owen had vanished, wearing a blue vest and pretending that didn't mean anything. The return counter was a little island of bad moods. People came there with broken blenders, worn-out shoes, dead plants, air fryers with grease still inside, toys missing half their parts. At night, everything sounded too loud. Tape ripping, plastic bags crackling, the old printer coughing up receipts, the automatic doors sighing open and shut even when no one entered. Our assistant manager, Marcy, said the new return software had glitches. "It'll reject anything if the barcode looks funny," she told me. "Just use override code 91. Marcy had sharp red nails and always smelled like cinnamon gum. She didn't like questions. Questions made paperwork. So when the baby monitor return printed a receipt with no item name, no price, and one problem code, I almost blamed the software. Problem code, customer not found. The man in the denim jacket snatched the return receipt before I could read the transaction ID. "No," I said. "I need that for the drawer." He shook his head. Rainwater dripped from his hair onto the counter. "It knows when you keep proof." "Sir, I can't process the return without." He leaned closer. His breath smelled like pennies. "Do you hear scratching inside your wall at night?" I stopped. For 3 weeks, something had been scratching behind the wall beside my bed. I had blamed mice. The landlord blamed pipes. The exterminator found nothing. The man saw my face change. "Don't answer it," he whispered. Then he walked out through the automatic doors and into the empty parking lot, leaving the baby monitor behind. I put it in the bin for electronics returns, but at 1:13 a.m., it turned itself back on. This time the screen showed the return counter from above. Me standing there alone. And behind me, where the cigarette display used to be before they moved it, was a second counter. Older. Dark wood. A brass bell on top. A line of people waiting in clothes from different decades. A woman in a floral dress. A boy in a football jacket. A man with one side of his shirt soaked black. At the end of the line stood Owen. Still 16. Still wearing the red hoodie. I dropped the monitor so hard the screen cracked. The image went black. For about an hour, I convinced myself I had seen what I wanted to see. That's the cruel thing about missing someone. Your mind keeps trying to hand them back in reflections, crowds, voicemail glitches, dreams that leave marks on your pillow. Then the second return came in. A teenage girl brought a mirror wrapped in a towel. She had braces, purple nails, and mascara streaked down one cheek. Her mother waited near the cart corral, staring at the floor. The mirror was oval, about the size of a serving tray, with a crack running from the top to the center. "I don't want a refund," the girl said. "Just take it." "Was it damaged when you bought it?" She swallowed. "I didn't buy it." I started to tell her we couldn't accept merchandise without proof of purchase, but she slid a receipt toward me. The paper was yellowed and soft at the edges. The date at the top was March 3rd, 1998. The barcode scanned perfectly. On my register, the item description appeared as Aisle 14 Reflection. Return denied. Problem code, customer not found. The mirror shifted under the towel. Not fell. Shifted. I saw the reflection before I saw the glass. It didn't show the customer service area. It showed an aisle I didn't recognize, narrow and dim, shelves packed with unlabeled white boxes. The floor was the old brown tile Walmart hadn't used in years. At the far end, a hanging sign said returns in faded blue letters. Someone was walking down that aisle toward the mirror. The girl grabbed my wrist. "It comes closer every time." Marcy appeared behind me, chewing gum hard. "What's the issue?" The girl let go. "Please." Marcy looked at the receipt, then at the mirror, and her expression went blank in a way I didn't like. "Override it," she said. "Marcy, this receipt says 1998. "Override it." The girl started crying without making noise. I hit override code 91. The register opened with a cash drawer snap. The printer spat out another receipt. Problem code, customer not found. The mirror's reflection changed. The strange aisle was empty now, except for a red hoodie lying on the floor. After the girl and her mother left, I took the mirror to the back room. I should have put it with claims. Instead, I turned it toward the wall and covered it with a roll of packing paper. Marcy followed me. "You're new to overnights," she said. "I've been here 8 months. "That's new. What are these returns?" She looked at the concrete floor between us. "Some things come back easier than others." "That's not an answer." "No," she said. "It's the only safe part of one." Before I could ask what that meant, the front doors opened by themselves. The return bell rang. We didn't have a return bell. At 2:41 a.m., an old woman in a winter coat came to the counter. The coat was thick, gray, and wet with melted snow, even though it was July. Her white hair was tucked under a plastic rain bonnet. She held a Walmart bag in both hands. "I need to give this back before it notices," she said. Marcy was gone. No one else was near the front. I looked past the woman at the doors. The parking lot outside shimmered with heat under the orange lights. "No snow. What's wrong with it?" I asked. The woman placed the bag on the counter. Inside was a child's winter coat, red. The front was stained dark around the zipper. I knew that coat. Not exactly, maybe, but close enough that I had to grip the edge of the counter. Owen wore one just like it the night he vanished. The woman handed me a receipt. The date was 3 days in the future. The item name read, "Boys outerwear." Color, red. Condition, witness. Below that, problem code, customer not found. The woman's hands trembled. "He said if I brought it back, my grandson would wake up." "Who said?" She looked toward the seasonal aisle, where the summer pool floats hung deflated and shiny. The man behind the empty shelf. A sound came from the coat. A phone ringing. Not a ringtone. An old house phone. The kind from our kitchen when Owen disappeared. 1 ring. 2. 3. I reached into the coat pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. It wasn't paper. It was a return tag, laminated in yellow with age. Written on it in blue ink was my brother's name, Owen Vale. Return accepted, October 17th, 2014. Balance transferred. I don't remember breathing after that. The woman touched the counter with 2 fingers. "Don't look for him after midnight." Then she left without the coat, without the receipt, without asking for money. I locked the customer service gate and crawled under the counter. I had dropped things under there before. Pens, coins, a box cutter, once a customer's hearing aid. But that night, with my phone flashlight between my teeth, I saw the old seam in the carpet, a square cutout. I pulled it back. Underneath was a metal cash box. The lock had rusted so badly it came open when I hit it with the handle of the box cutter. Inside were return slips wrapped in rubber bands. Hundreds of them. Some were modern thermal paper. Some were handwritten. Some were printed on green and white paper with dot matrix holes along the edges. Every slip had the same problem code. Customer not found. There was also a ledger. The cover was black, soft from handling. The first page said, "Night returns. Authorized after 12 a.m. Do not refuse bargained items." Names filled the pages. Beside each name was an item. Cassette recorder. Wedding ring. Baby blanket. Bottle of pills. Photograph. Left shoe. Aisle key. And beside many of the names, in red pencil, was one word. Missing. I found newspaper clippings tucked between the pages. Missing person notices. Police reports. A photocopy of a 1972 article about a woman who vanished after returning a radio that kept broadcasting her dead husband's voice. A 1989 report about a man who brought back a set of steak knives wrapped in his own shirt, then walked into aisle 11 and never reached the end. Near the back, I found Owen. Owen Vale. Age, 16. Item returned, silver flashlight. Bargain, sister spared. Balance transferred. Status, customer not found. My phone slipped from my hand. The flashlight. Owen had taken one from our junk drawer that night because the bulb on his bike was out. He told me to come with him. I had refused because I was angry at him for telling Mom I'd been skipping school. We fought in the kitchen. I said something I can't forget, something stupid and sharp. I hope you disappear. He laughed like I hadn't meant it. Then he did. Above me, the register printer started running. I crawled out from under the counter. A receipt was printing slowly, one line at a time. Tessa Vale. Item sister. Bargain accepted. Return window expires tonight. The automatic doors opened. No one came in. At the far end of the front aisle, the lights began shutting off one section at a time, starting near pharmacy and moving toward me. Click, click, click. The store changed shape in the dark. The wide aisle seemed narrower. The ceiling felt lower. Somewhere near grocery, a shopping cart rolled by itself and stopped. Then the old return bell rang again. Behind me, I turned. The second counter from the baby monitor was there. Dark wood, brass bell, a line of people waiting in silence. The woman in the floral dress, the boy in the football jacket, the man with the black soaked shirt, and Owen. He stood behind the counter this time. Not as he should have been at 26. Not grown. Still 16, pale under the buzzing fluorescent light, red hoodie zipped to his chin. His eyes were tired in a way no teenager's eyes should be. Tess, he said. My brother had called me that since he was little, when he couldn't say Tessa. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to ask 100 questions and cover his mouth before he answered any of them. What did you do? I asked. He looked down at the counter. His fingers rested beside the brass bell. I gave back what it asked for. What is it? He glanced toward the aisles. The shelves past him were empty except for objects placed neatly every few feet. A baby monitor, a cracked mirror, a gray winter coat, a silver flashlight. Behind them, farther down, things moved between the shelving without touching the floor. Owen spoke quietly. The store gives people what they want after midnight. Money, second chances, someone alive again, someone gone. But it always asks for proof afterward. Proof of what? That you meant it. The receipt in my hand felt hot. I thought of our kitchen, the fight, the words I had thrown at him because I knew they would hurt. I hope you disappear. Owen's face tightened. I tried to return the flashlight. I told it I changed my mind. And it said the bargain wasn't mine. The lights above the counter flickered. Something moved at the end of aisle 14, tall enough to brush the hanging signs. Its shape bent where joints shouldn't be, as if it had folded itself to fit indoors. Owen reached under the counter and placed an object in front of me. A silver flashlight, dented near the lens. Our junk drawer flashlight. Take it, he said. What happens to you? He smiled, but it looked like pain. You were always the customer. The thing in aisle 14 made a sound like plastic hangers scraping together. Owen pushed the flashlight closer. Return it before it notices. I grabbed it. The wood counter vanished. The lights came back hard and white. I was alone at customer service with the silver flashlight in one hand and the receipt in the other. My register screen flashed. Return item? Yes/no. I hit yes. The drawer opened. The printer screamed. Every receipt under the counter shot out from the machine in a long white ribbon. Names, dates, codes, bargains. They spilled over my shoes and across the floor like shed skin. The screen changed. Customer found. Somewhere in the store, something slammed into the shelves hard enough to knock down an entire row of glass jars. Spaghetti sauce burst across the tile. The automatic doors opened and closed, faster and faster. I ran. I left through the garden center emergency exit, setting off the alarm. I didn't stop until I reached the bus shelter on East Harrow with rain soaking through my vest and the silver flashlight still clenched in my hand. By morning, the store manager called it a power surge. Marcy denied knowing anything about the ledger. The old cash box was gone. The return counter had been replaced with temporary folding tables by the next week. I quit that day. I also went to the police with Owen's return tag, but by the time I got there, the tag was blank. For 6 months, nothing happened. Then last night, my apartment wall started scratching again. Not near my bed this time. Near the kitchen trash. I turned on every light. I checked the locks. I told myself old buildings make sounds. Pipes knock. Mice chew. Neighbors drag furniture at midnight because people are inconsiderate. At 12:07 a.m., my printer turned on by itself. I don't own a printer. The sound came from inside the kitchen cabinet under the sink. A thin strip of receipt paper slid out between the warped cabinet doors and curled onto the floor. At the top was the Walmart logo. Below it was my name, Tessa Vale. Problem code, customer not found. And under that, in fresh black ink, return window expires tonight. Story 8. The receipt was already in my son's fevered hand when we stepped beneath the pharmacy sign, and it had charged me for aisle 13 before I knew it was there. Ben was 6, wrapped in his puffer coat over dinosaur pajamas, his cheeks shiny with sweat. He had been asleep 20 minutes earlier, curled on my couch under a blanket with spaceships on it, when his fever climbed to 103.1 and he started mumbling for his mother. That was the worst part. Not the fever, not the rain, not the fact that it was 11:38 on a Tuesday night and I had work at 6 in the morning. It was hearing him say, "Mommy knows where the medicine is." His mother had been gone for 3 years. I'm Daniel Reed. I was 34 then, living in Graybridge, Kentucky, in a 2-bedroom rental behind a tire shop. I drove a delivery truck for a medical supply company, mostly oxygen tanks and hospital beds, which meant I spent all day bringing sick people what they needed, and most nights wondering whether I had enough money to keep my own kid healthy. Mara and I divorced the year before she died, or before I thought she died. That distinction matters now. We had not hated each other. Not really. We were just tired in the way young parents get tired when bills, grief, and blame start filling every room. After the divorce, we shared custody. Then one night, Mara went out to buy Ben cough syrup from the Walmart on Hampton Pike and never came home. Her car was found 3 miles away, down an embankment, burned so badly the police said there was nothing useful left. They found her purse, her ring, part of her phone, enough for them to tell me she must have crashed and that the fire had taken care of the rest. I accepted it because I had a toddler and no strength left to argue with ashes. That night, Ben needed fever medicine, and the only place open was the same Walmart. I almost drove to the 24-hour pharmacy across town. I really did, but Ben was shaking in his car seat, whispering that the light hurt his eyes, and Walmart was 5 minutes away. The parking lot was nearly empty, wet black asphalt reflecting the big blue sign. Inside, the store smelled like mop water, popcorn oil, and old cardboard. A teenage cashier near the front was wiping down a conveyor belt. Somewhere in the ceiling, an old speaker hummed without playing music. I carried Ben because his legs felt loose. His head rested under my chin, hot through his hair. "We just need medicine," I told him. He lifted one hand and pointed past the pharmacy shelves. "Daddy," he said, "that aisle says family." I looked. At the end of the cold and flu section, between aisle 12 and the wall where the blood pressure machine used to be, there was a tall white sign with blue letters. Aisle 13, family needs. I stopped walking. I knew that Walmart. Everyone in Graybridge did. The pharmacy area had 12 aisles. Always had. Aisle 12 ended with vitamins, braces, and those cheap reading glasses on spinning racks. After that was a painted cinderblock wall and a locked door marked employees only. But the wall was gone. In its place was an aisle stretching farther than it should have, lit warmer than the rest of the store. Not fluorescent white, more like kitchen light. Ben shifted in my arms. "Mommy's there," he whispered. I told myself it was the fever. Kids say things when they're sick. Adults do too. Then I looked at the receipt in his hand. It was folded once, damp from his palm. I had not bought anything yet. I had not gone near a register. But the top showed the store number, the date, and the time, 11:41 p.m. Below that was a single printed line. Aisle 13 access, family needs, $0.00. At the bottom, in smaller letters, it said, "No returns after midnight." I should have left right then. Instead, I stepped closer. The first shelf held shampoo. Not just any shampoo. Mara's shampoo. The honey-colored bottle with the green cap that smelled like coconut and rosemary. It had been discontinued years ago. I knew because after she died, I searched for it online at 2 in the morning like a lunatic, just so Ben's pillow might smell like her again. There were 20 bottles lined up perfectly, each label facing forward. Ben reached for one. I pulled his hand back. "Don't touch." A woman's voice behind me said, "Most people only find this aisle when they're missing something." I turned too fast and nearly dropped Ben. An employee stood by the end cap. She was maybe 60, with silver hair pinned in a bun and a blue vest buttoned over a cream sweater. Her name tag said Doris. She smiled at Ben like she knew him. "Pharmacy's closing soon," she said, "but this section stays open for family." "This aisle wasn't here before," I said. Doris looked down at the receipt in Ben's hand. "Then you must need it tonight." Her kindness felt practiced, like a customer service voice played from a tape. "My son has a fever." "I know," she said. That was the second clue. Not the shampoo. Not the impossible sign. The way she said "I know" without asking his name. Ben lifted his head from my shoulder. "Mommy called me." Doris's smile softened. "Children hear better." I backed away from her, but Ben started crying, weak and breathy, and down the aisle something played a low tune. Not music from the speakers. A lullaby from inside a toy, tinny and slow. It was the song Mara used to hum when Ben wouldn't sleep. I walked into aisle 13. For the first 20 feet, it felt almost beautiful. That is what I hate remembering. There were shelves full of objects from my life, each one clean and new. The exact yellow mug Mara chipped on our first apartment sink. A pack of the cinnamon gum she chewed when she was nervous. A stack of folded laundry that smelled like the detergent we used before we could afford the good kind. Then I saw the blanket. It was blue with little white moons, folded on a waist-high shelf beside baby bottles and pacifiers. Ben's nursery blanket. The real one had been lost during the move after the divorce. Mara cried about it for an hour and then pretended she hadn't. Ben reached for it before I could stop him. The moment his fingers touched the fabric, the receipt twitched in his other hand. A new line printed across the bottom. "Blue nursery blanket, memory value applied." "Daddy," Ben said, pressing it to his cheek, "it smells like home." I took it from him gently and put it back. The aisle lights dimmed behind us. Not in front. Behind. I looked over my shoulder. Aisle 12 was farther away than it should have been. Doris stood at the entrance, small and patient, hands folded at her waist. "Don't browse too long," she called. "Some families overthink the exchange." "What exchange?" She only smiled. Farther down the aisle, a row of birthday cards trembled in their slots, though there was no breeze. One slid out and dropped at my feet. The envelope said Danny. Only Mara called me Danny. I opened it with one hand while holding Ben against my hip. Inside was Mara's handwriting. "I forgive you for the last thing you said." I had never told anyone about that. The last time Mara and I spoke, we argued over the phone. She was at Walmart. I could hear cartwheels, an announcement about pharmacy hours, Ben coughing in the background because it was my custody night and she had picked him up early to help me out. I was angry because she made me feel useless. I said, "You always need to be the one who saves him." She said, "I'm just buying medicine, Daniel." I told her not to come back if she was going to keep acting like I couldn't be trusted. She never came back. My fingers crushed the card. Ben was staring past me now. "Mommy's by the pictures," he said. The photo frames began halfway down the aisle. Some were normal display images. Laughing families in white shirts. Babies in pumpkin costumes. Couples on beaches. Then they became ours. Me and Mara outside the courthouse after our wedding. Ben on his first birthday with frosting on his ear. Mara asleep in the recliner with newborn Ben on her chest. Photos I owned. Photos I had taken. Then one frame showed a picture that never happened. In it, Mara stood beside me on a porch I did not recognize. She looked older, with fine lines near her eyes. Ben stood between us, maybe 10 years old, holding a baseball glove. We were smiling like people who had made it through something and not broken apart. Ben touched the glass. "Can we get that one?" The receipt printed again. Family portrait, future option reserved. I tore the receipt from his hand. The paper was warm. Beyond the picture frames, the aisle changed. The shelves no longer looked comforting. The products were arranged too neatly, each label white with black letters. Medicine bottles lined the left side, all bearing Ben's name. Benjamin Reed, fever reducer, 06/14/2027. Benjamin Reed, sleep aid, 11/02/2029. Benjamin Reed, grief support, 04/18/2036. I grabbed one bottle. It was empty except for a small folded paper inside. On it was a hospital bracelet, Ben's full name, a date 5 years in the future, a time of death. I threw the bottle down. It bounced without breaking. The aisle behind us went dark shelf by shelf. Ben started coughing hard. His skin was burning against my arms. From farther down, Mara called his name. Not a recording, not memory. Her voice. "Ben, baby. Come here." He pushed against my chest. "Mommy." "No," I said. "That's not her." But I did not know that. That was the cruel part. I did not know. We moved deeper because I thought maybe the aisle had medicine. Real medicine. The kind I came for. I told myself if I found children's acetaminophen, I could grab it and run. I told myself a lot of stupid, reasonable things. Then I saw the missing child poster. It was taped to the shelf beside a display of nightlights. Missing, Benjamin Reed. The photo was from that night. Pajamas. Red cheeks. Damp hair. My son in my arms under Walmart lights. The listed date of disappearance was tomorrow. Under last seen, it said. With father, aisle 13. I folded the poster and shoved it into my coat because physical evidence makes you feel sane for about 3 seconds. Then a shopping cart rolled out from between 2 shelves. It moved slowly, one bad wheel squeaking. Inside were shoes. Dozens of them. Work boots, sandals, tiny sneakers, high heels. There were car keys too, piled in the child's seat with old wallets and cracked phones. Hanging from the handle was Mara's keychain. A little red plastic lobster from a beach trip we took before Ben was born. Her car keys had supposedly burned in the crash. I picked them up. The aisle shuddered. Every product on every shelf clicked forward 1 inch. That was when I understood. Aisle 13 didn't sell what people needed. It showed them what they would trade. A smell of smoke drifted between the shelves. Burned upholstery. Melted plastic. The smell from the evidence bag the police once showed me when they returned Mara's ring. I turned Mara's keys over in my palm and saw a Walmart barcode sticker wrapped around the metal. Not from now. Old. Faded. Dated 3 years earlier. The same night she disappeared. A television mounted high above the aisle flickered on. Security footage. Mara pushing Ben in a cart. Ben was 3 then, bundled in a green coat. She looked exhausted, one hand on her back, the other holding cough syrup. She turned into aisle 13, though in the video there was only a blank wall where the aisle should have been. Doris stood there waiting. Mara looked straight into the camera. She mouthed something. The video had no sound, but I knew the words. I found what we need. Then Doris lifted Ben out of the cart. My knees nearly folded. No, I said, because Ben had come home that night. A neighbor found him asleep in his car seat outside my apartment door at 2:12 a.m., wrapped in the blue moon blanket we thought we had lost later. I had forgotten that part, or buried it, or someone had taken it from me and put something smoother in its place. Mara never died in a crash. She had made a trade. but not the one the store wanted. The light snapped off behind us, leaving only the glow farther down the aisle. Mara stood there. She wore the gray sweater from the night she vanished. Her hair was shorter than I remembered. Her skin looked pale, not dead, but faded, like a photo left in a window. Ben squirmed so hard I almost dropped him. "Mommy!" Mara smiled at him, and for 1 second her face was exactly right. Then I saw her feet. Bare. The shopping cart behind me was full of shoes. "Daniel," she said. "He's so sick." I clutched Ben tighter. "What is this?" Her eyes moved to the receipt in my hand. "It let me keep him once." Doris appeared beside her. "Temporary arrangement," she said pleasantly. The balance remained open. Mara's smile trembled. "I tried to send him back to you," she said. "I thought if I stayed, it would leave him alone." Doris looked at Ben the way a cashier looks at an item that won't scan. "Children grow," she said. "Value changes." Mara stepped closer. "Run." The shelves burst open. Hands came out between cereal boxes, shampoo bottles, picture frames, birthday cards. Human hands. Some old, some small, some wearing wedding rings. They grabbed at my sleeves and Ben's blanket and the receipt. I ran toward the darkness behind us. The aisle stretched. Doris's voice followed, calm over the squeaking cartwheel. "Sir, you have not completed checkout." Ben screamed for his mother. Mara screamed my name. I kept running because she told me to, because I had failed her once by telling her not to come back, because I finally understood that grief will sell you anything if it uses the right voice. The aisle 13 sign appeared ahead, impossibly far away, lit white and blue. Doris was standing beneath it now. She held out one hand. "Receipt, please." I looked down. The receipt had wrapped around my wrist like a hospital band. Lines were printing across it while I ran. Customer request, wife. Customer request, home. Customer request, forgiveness. Then one line blinking in wet black ink. Offer, one child. I bit the paper. I don't know why. Panic does strange math. I tore it with my teeth and ripped until it came loose from my skin. The pain was sharp and real. Doris's smile vanished. The whole aisle made a sound like 1,000 registers opening at once. I threw the torn receipt into the shopping cart full of keys. Every car alarm in the parking lot went off. Suddenly I was falling through the end cap into aisle 12, knocking down vitamin bottles and knee braces. Ben landed on top of me. The pharmacy lights buzzed overhead, bright and ordinary. A man stocking allergy medicine shouted, "Hey, you okay?" There was no aisle 13, only the cinderblock wall. I bought children's fever reducer at register 4 with shaking hands. The cashier asked if I wanted the receipt. I said no so loudly she leaned back. Ben's fever broke at 3:20 that morning. For 2 weeks, I told myself we had survived. I threw away the missing child poster after taking photos of it. The photos came out blank. I called the police about Mara, but the detective who handled her case had retired, and no one wanted to reopen a death with no body and no clean question. Then Ben began asking why Mommy couldn't come inside. Last night, I found him in the kitchen at 11:41 p.m., standing in front of the open junk drawer. He was holding Mara's Red Lobster keychain. On the counter beside him sat a fresh Walmart receipt, warm enough to curl at the edges. There was only one item listed. One child, exchange approved. And beneath it, in Mara's handwriting, someone had written, "Daniel, don't bring him back.